There's a certain kind of person who feels almost nothing when it actually happens. The argument that should have wrecked them, the goodbye at the door, the phone call with the bad news. In the moment, they stay calm, composed. They nod, they say the right things. Someone watching them would think they were handling it beautifully, maybe even a little too well. And then, a day later, it hits. They're standing in the kitchen, or driving home, or halfway through some ordinary task that has nothing to do with anything. And suddenly, the whole weight of it arrives at once. The grief, the anger, the hurt they were supposed to feel yesterday, when everyone else felt theirs. They didn't skip the emotion. It was never gone. It was just running late. If you're this kind of person, you already know the strange loneliness of it. Everyone around you moves through their feelings on time. They cry at the funeral. They blow up during the fight. They celebrate the moment the good news lands. And you stand there, quietly wondering why you feel so little, why you seem so unbothered, why there's this flat, glassy calm inside you when there should be a storm. And then the storm comes, just not when anyone's watching. Most people call this being cold. They'll tell you you're detached, emotionally unavailable, that you don't process things like a normal person, that you must not have cared as much as you claimed. Some of them have said it to your face. Maybe you've even started to believe it about yourself, that somewhere along the way a wire came loose and you just don't feel things the way you're supposed to. But the truth is almost the exact opposite. People who feel everything a day later are not feeling less. In many cases, they're feeling far more than the people around them. Their emotions aren't missing, they're delayed, arriving on a schedule that nobody else can see, least of all the person living inside it. What looks like ice on the surface is very often a system that is quietly overwhelmed underneath. The calm isn't the absence of emotion. The calm is the sound of a brain buying itself time. And once you understand why that delay exists, you stop seeing it as a defect. You start seeing it as one of the most protective things your mind has ever learned to do. Today we're going to decode the psychology of delayed emotion. Why some people feel life on a 24-hour delay, where that lag actually comes from, what it quietly costs you in your relationships, and how to work with it instead of spending your whole life apologizing for it. Because this isn't a personality flaw, and it isn't a character weakness. It's a pattern with a real mechanism behind it. Psychologists have a name for part of what's happening here. There's a trait called alexithymia, which describes difficulty identifying and naming emotions in the moment they occur. And there's a broader body of research on what's sometimes called delayed emotional processing, the way certain nervous systems postpone the full experience of a feeling until the environment is finally safe enough to have it. The key word there is safe, because delay, at its core, is not about coldness at all. It's about protection. Your mind decided, a long time ago, that some feelings were too big to have in front of an audience, and it built a system to hold them until the room was empty. Let's get into how that system works. There are 3 things you need to understand about it, and by the end, I think you'll see yourself somewhere in all 3. When something painful happens, most people expect the reaction to be immediate. Something breaks, the feeling floods in, the tears come, the voice rises. Cause, then effect, right away. But for people who feel everything a day later, the nervous system does something different first. Before it lets the feeling through, it runs an assessment. Is this a safe place to fall apart? Is someone depending on me to be steady right now? Will breaking down here make things worse? And if the answer is that it isn't safe, or that other people need you to hold it together, the system does something remarkable. It presses pause, not on the emotion itself, but on your access to it. Psychologists have a name for this: the freeze response. When a moment is too much to handle in real time, the nervous system doesn't fight and it doesn't flee. It goes still, and it holds the feeling somewhere just out of reach, so you can keep functioning through the thing that's actually hurting you. This is why so many people with this pattern describe themselves as the calm one in a crisis, the one who handles the emergency, makes the phone calls, comforts everyone else, and only later, alone, discovers the full size of what they went through. For a lot of people, this started early. If you grew up in an environment where big emotions weren't welcome, where falling apart got you punished or ignored or made you a burden, your brain learned a simple rule: feelings are for later. Later, when no one needs anything from you. Later, when there's no one left to disappoint. So the delay isn't randomness, it's training. Somewhere along the way, your mind learned that the safest time to feel something was never right now, and it got very, very good at waiting. But it isn't only about childhood, and I want to be careful not to make it sound that simple. For some people, this delay is closer to how the brain is physically wired. There's a real difference in how quickly different nervous systems move a raw sensation up into a nameable feeling. For some, that pathway is fast and loud. The event happens and the feeling is right there, fully formed, impossible to ignore. For others, that same pathway is slower and quieter. The sensation registers, the body reacts, the heart rate changes, but the part of the brain that turns all of that into a clear, nameable emotion lags behind. So in the moment, you honestly don't know what you feel. Not because you're avoiding it, but because it hasn't finished loading yet. And there's one more piece worth naming. A lot of people with this pattern are also the ones others lean on. The dependable one, the steady one, the person everyone assumes is fine because they've always seemed fine. When you're that person, the delay becomes almost necessary. If you fell apart in real time, who would hold everything together? So your system quietly agrees to a trade. It will let you be the rock now in exchange for the storm later, alone. Most people making that trade have no idea they're making it. They just know that somehow they always end up feeling the worst of it after everyone else has gone home. Here's where it gets complicated, because this same protective system comes with a real price. And it shows up most in the places you care about most, your relationships. Picture the argument. Someone you love says something that genuinely wounds you, and in the moment, you feel almost nothing. You go quiet, you shrug, you say, "It's fine, I'm okay." And part of you actually believes it, because the feeling hasn't arrived yet. So the conversation ends. The other person walks away thinking everything's resolved. And then, a day later, the hurt finally lands. Sharp and total, long after the moment to talk about it has closed. Now you're carrying a wound about a conversation everyone else considers finished. You can bring it up, but it feels strange, almost unfair, to reopen something a full day old. So often, you just don't. You swallow it, and it stacks on top of the last one you swallowed, and the one before that. This is the quiet tragedy of delayed emotion. Not that you don't feel things, but that you feel them at the wrong time to do anything about them. It creates a specific kind of loneliness too, because to the people around you, you can seem unbothered by things that clearly should matter. A partner might think you don't care. A friend might feel like they're the only one who gets emotional, while you sit there untouchable. They have no idea that your reaction is coming. It's just coming tomorrow, in private, where they'll never see it and never get to comfort you through it. And there's a crueler layer underneath. Because you feel so little in the moment, you start to doubt yourself. You wonder if you're broken. You wonder if the people calling you cold are right. You perform being fine so convincingly that eventually you can't tell anymore whether you're fine or just very good at waiting. The delay doesn't just hide your feelings from other people. Over time, it hides them from you. That gap between what you show and what you'll eventually feel is where a lot of people with this pattern quietly exhaust themselves. They're always one day behind their own heart, forever processing yesterday while today keeps arriving. And it distorts the good moments too, not just the painful ones. Think about the times you were supposed to be happy, a celebration, an achievement, a moment you'd worked toward for years. Everyone around you is beaming, and you feel this strange, muted flatness, like you're watching your own good news through glass. You smile, you say thank you, you go through the motions. And then 2 days later, alone, out of nowhere, the joy finally hits you and you almost cry from it. But by then the party's over. The people who wanted to celebrate with you have moved on. You end up experiencing the biggest moments of your life in an empty room, a beat too late to share them with anyone. That's its own quiet grief, and almost nobody talks about it. There's also the exhaustion of constantly explaining yourself, or worse, deciding not to. After enough times of people misreading your calm as coldness, a lot of people with this pattern just stop trying to correct it. It's easier to let someone believe you didn't care than to explain that your caring is on a delay they'll never see. So you shrink the explanation down to nothing, and you carry the misunderstanding instead. Over years, that adds up to a very specific kind of tired. The tiredness of being chronically misunderstood by people who genuinely love you. So what do you actually do with a nervous system that runs on a delay? Not fight it. That's the first thing to understand. You are not going to force yourself to feel on command, and trying will only make you feel more broken. The goal isn't to become someone who reacts instantly. The goal is to stop being ambushed by your own emotions. and to stop letting the delay quietly destroy the conversations that matter. Start with one sentence and learn to say it out loud. I don't know how I feel about this yet, but I will, and I might need to come back to it. That single sentence changes everything. It tells the people around you that your silence isn't indifference, it's processing. It buys you the time your system needs without letting the other person walk away believing you didn't care. It turns "I'm fine" from a lie into a placeholder. And crucially, it gives you permission to return to the conversation tomorrow when the feeling finally shows up, without it seeming strange or unfair. The second thing is to start noticing your own delay as data. If you know that big events tend to hit you a day later, then the flat, glassy calm you feel right after something painful is not proof that you're okay. It's a signal. It's your early warning that a wave is on its way. People who learn this stop trusting the numbness. They start treating it the way you'd treat the strange stillness before a storm, not as safety, but as a heads up to prepare. And the third thing is to build the room your emotion has been waiting for. If your mind has spent your whole life postponing feelings until it's safe to have them, then part of healing is deliberately creating that safety, on purpose, on your own terms. That might mean time alone at the end of a hard day where nothing is required of you. It might mean writing, where the feeling has somewhere to go. It might mean one person, just one, in front of whom you're allowed to be a day late and still be met with patience instead of judgment. And there's one more shift that changes everything, which is learning to tell the people close to you about the delay before it causes a problem, not after. Most people wait until they're already misunderstood to try to explain themselves, and by then it sounds like an excuse. But if you tell someone early, in a calm moment, something as simple as, "When something big happens, I usually don't feel it until the next day. So if I seem quiet, it doesn't mean I don't care." You hand them the key to reading you correctly. You'd be surprised how much relief there is on the other side of that sentence. The people who love you have probably been confused by your calm for years. Naming the delay out loud lets them finally stop taking it personally. And it lets you stop performing a reaction you don't actually have yet. Because here's what almost nobody tells people with this pattern. The delay was never the problem. The delay was the solution your mind invented back when there was nowhere safe to feel. And once you build somewhere safe, the delay starts to shrink on its own. Not because you forced it, but because your nervous system finally believes it doesn't have to wait anymore. So if you recognize yourself in all of this, I want you to hear this part clearly. You are not cold. You are not broken. You didn't miss the part of being human where you're supposed to feel things. Your feelings show up in full. They just show up in their own time, on a schedule your mind built a long time ago to keep you safe. The calm you feel when everyone expects a storm isn't emptiness. It's a system that learned, somewhere back there, that the safest time to fall apart was never in front of anyone. That's not a flaw in your character. That's the quiet, stubborn intelligence of a mind that found a way to keep going through things that should have stopped it. And the fact that you're here, watching a video trying to understand yourself, means the waiting is already starting to loosen its grip. If any of this landed, tell me in the comments. How long is your delay? A few hours? A full day? Longer? I read these, and I think a lot of people are about to realize they've never met anyone who works the way they do, and they're not nearly as alone as they thought. And if there's someone in your life who always thinks you didn't care, who's mistaken your calm for coldness, send them this. Not to win an argument, just so the person who loves you can finally understand that your heart was never absent. It was just running a day behind, carrying everything the whole time. I'm going to keep decoding the quiet patterns most people never notice about themselves. If you want to keep noticing them with me, you know what to do. Once you see this pattern in yourself, it's hard to unsee. And I don't think you'll ever call yourself cold again.